Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on the AgentXcel podcast. And today I'm going to be doing a solo show where I talk about boundaries. This is boundaries in really all areas of life, from your phone, calling people, texting people, social media, um, checking emails. And I think this is just a conversation that needs to be had. It was something that I was thinking about the other day, and I put some notes together, just downloading some of my thoughts. And I wanted to have a show where you guys heard how I process some of this stuff in my life. So enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about boundaries. It's probably been over the last few weeks. I've been noticing a few things going on just with myself and others when I'm out and about. And I always wanted to just sit down and reflect on situations and see, how I want to conduct myself, what I think is the most appropriate thing moving forward. And this is going to be on boundaries, just kind of on my phone, email, social media. And this is something that, like I said, I'm not perfect on this. This is just kind of the show is going to be more about my thoughts and the direction that I would like to go. And like I said, not everything that I'm going to talk about today am I doing perfectly, but this is how I process things. Well, I was at lunch yesterday, and I just realized actually how many people were having conversations with the people at the table, and then also how many conversations were being done through phones, through texting, Instagram, and nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment in this. So I want to start there. I'm realizing would we be having that conversation with that person on social? Should we be having that conversation right there? Why we're with that person? Is that making that person who's with us feel like they're important? Or, hey, maybe that's just how the rules are played. Maybe that's just hey, everyone do whatever they want, and that's fine. But I decided that after I saw this enough, I just started reflecting on it. And I when I get these thoughts, I feel like it's just something that I notice. And sometimes I notice it in people. And then when I notice it in people, I self-reflect on myself because I'm doing the same thing. So then I just usually will sit down and thought and pull out my phone and start writing some notes. And it's like I said, it's not always perfect, but this is usually how I get on to a better way for me to do things in my life. So I'm going to go through right now. So I made a note and it said rules for my iPhone. And this is just how I thought it through. So I wrote down, my phone doesn't go with me to bed at night. It gets charged 10 feet away, so I don't check it at night. So like I said, this was just some things I've been noticing. And then I went down, I was like, I got to reflect on this because I really want to figure this out. And this is what started coming out. It was just a freestyled conversation with myself and my notes. So my phone doesn't go with me to bed at night. It gets charged 10 feet away. So I don't check it at night. That's, something I need to work on a lot. And I'm noticing now that the bed is for bed. And I went through stages on this, but I'm going to make a recommitment to keep my phone 10 feet away, turn the noise off. And just because when I get in bed, that should be a time where it's hey, I'm going to bed. This isn't a time for oh, now let me go lay in my bed, have my TV on, scroll through social media and wander. If I'm going to do that, I could do that out in the living room at the kitchen table. But when I'm going to bed now, I want to make that that's what I'm doing. I don't want to multitask. It's go to bed and don't bring the phone with me. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, some nights where it's oh, don't sleep good. It's yeah, because you just scrolled through 30 minutes of stuff right before bed and saw all this information that stimulated your brain. And then you're then telling it, hey, let's chill out for 7 hours and go to bed. So my next thing I wrote down is don't check social media before 1 p.m. I must earn entertainment. I may post before 1 p.m., but never scroll. Nothing needs to enter my brain in the morning. I know exactly what I need to do to dominate the day. Get it done. And that's one where, so we just talked about, going to bed and keeping the phone away, but then it's in the morning time. It was instantly going to social media and seeing, hey, what's up? What are people doing? What happened on my post, what happened on my stories. And, someone who's super productive, they usually wake up with a mission in the day. Exactly what task you have to do. Exactly the order you have to do them, and there's no time to waste. So that whole, even checking on stuff for 15, 20 minutes, it's not just the 15 minutes. I don't even think it's the time. I think it's the brain space that you just allowed to see what everyone's doing, your brain starts going different directions. Like I want to wake up now with my, like, I want to go to bed with the plan. And when I wake up in the morning, just already start attacking the plan, like get into my morning routine, get into my work routine. And then later in the afternoon, that's when I can check my social, when maybe the day's winding down, but not while, the day is going on. Cause I think it takes you different ways that if you're trying to like laser focus on a goal, it takes you ways that you shouldn't probably go. Then I wrote down, no more phone in the bath, think instead. Anybody who knows me knows that I take a bath, and I'll take my phone in there and I'll just kind of like scroll and do work. And now I realize like I don't want to do that anymore. Like I want that to be a place where, I just think, and, nothing, no more scrolling while I'm in there to just keep filling my brain with stuff. It should be a place for, silence, and thinking about proactively what to do next, or just chill out, like do nothing. That's actually could be better in there. So when eating with others, you'll only see my phone out if I'm taking a photo. Now that might sound weird, taking a photo, but I just really what I mean is make it a point that the phone's not out, and I realized yesterday at lunch, like I had my phone on the table, and then I realized how I don't even want to do that anymore, because it's setting like a precedence that like this is an important thing to me that I need to have right there. And please don't get me wrong. Are there times where like, hey, someone's calling at this time and we were happening to go to lunch at that time and I do have to take that call at that time? Yes. Like I am not talking about perfection here. I'm just talking about like, we think of these things in absolutes, and all I'm trying to say is I want to get 1% better. Like if 80% of the time I was doing this, I feel like my life would be better. So this isn't a perfection thing. So if you ever see me out and I'm on my phone, please note, like, I'm not doing this podcast today as a judgment statement. Like I'm actually doing this. I'm almost talking to myself right now and just recording it just to show you guys how I'm processing this. Cause I think there's a lot of people out there that are going through this right now and they don't know really what to do next. Like they feel like some of this stuff is just kind of taking over and they don't have control. And I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about like the amount of information we're getting anymore in society. Like it's compounding from TV to social media to like everywhere we go. We've got so much information being thrown at us that I really think that the art moving forward in the future is going to be figuring out how to control this stuff. Not saying you're not going to use it. It's just how do I control it where I can live a quality life while still having those things. So then I also put on here no more, and this is rules from my phone. So no more texting at red lights. My responses come off rude, and I need time to put thoughts into words. If you guys ever text somebody something, it's just like a really quick sentence, and maybe they deserved more, maybe not. But then you like realize like if you were at home or in your office, you would have sent a much longer text. That's what I want to stop doing. So like I'll get to a red light, pick up my phone, see maybe a few texts, and I'll text one back and it'll just say like see you at 10. And maybe that's appropriate for that situation. But you know what I mean? Like there's times where like a client's texting me or my mom, and it deserves a much longer text. And so I want to make sure that I'm not texting at red lights anymore, because I just don't think that I don't think it comes off the right way. I think people deserve more I think they deserve more thought to a conversation before something goes out. I put on there, once I start a podcast or a playlist while driving, I must finish it or just listen to the radio or silence. There's no exceptions while driving to fumble through the phone. Don't multitask. Driving is serious business. Now, I'm not a texter and driver typically. I mean, have I ever? Sure. But like naturally, I'm not one of those people that you see texting and driving. That's highly inappropriate and everyone should stop who's doing it. But you know what I mean? Like it's I'm still, you're driving and you just look at the situation and you're like, I can change this podcast real quick. And I just want to like, when I start my car now, for my phone not to be a function that takes away any of my attention, nothing. Like at red lights, I don't want to see who's texted me. At red lights, I don't want to see who's called me. I don't need to switch things in my car. It's like, hey, like before I drive out of the parking lot or the driveway of my house, like start a podcast. And if it gets to a spot where it's something I don't personally want to listen to anymore, then I would just, turn it off. Maybe that's it. Just turn it off and in silence. That's something that I did the other day. I rarely listen to silence in my car. I'm usually listening to mainly podcasts, sometimes books, and then sometimes like the classical station, where I can just get like symphony music and things like that to kind of get peace. But I'm noticing now, like doing it that one time where I just drove in silence, that it was pretty cool. Like just having your own thoughts and not having things consume you and having any more data come into your brain for that day. So that was my note. When I sat down, it was rules for my iPhone. That's what I thought of. And then it went into more things. So, I started writing down social media, just kind of like some rules for social media. And I wrote in my notes, I don't know why, but it said, this show isn't to tell you how to set up your boundaries. It's telling you that you should establish them. Please note that this show isn't telling you how to set up your boundaries. It's not telling you what your boundaries should be. I think that's important to know. Like, I'm not saying do it this way. I'm just saying, hey, set up boundaries for you. I think we all need boundaries is what I'm saying. You decide what they are in your life for maybe the age you're at or what you're trying to accomplish. Then I wrote, for social media, are you a consumer or are you a creator? Do you scroll or do you post? I mean, are you always just scrolling through for an hour as like entertainment, or do you actually post content on there where people scroll through it? I want to be someone who does more posting, and more of a content creator more than, someone who scrolls through it to check on things all day. You don't want to be checking your phone daily. Almost anytime you're doing that, you don't want to be checking your phone all throughout the day. Almost anytime you're doing that, you are usually dodging or procrastinating on what you should be doing. Please note, these are my notes. Like in my notes on iPhone, that's what I wrote. You don't want to be checking your phone all day. Almost anytime you're doing that, you are usually dodging or procrastinating on what you should be doing. And I agree with that. There are many times in the day when I know, and when I say this isn't, client appointments or client phone calls, like nothing that's an appointment am I ever going to dodge. Like there's always those things. Like right now, for example, I've got to get my taxes done. Like in my company, my taxes are super complex. It takes about 5 weeks of a few hours a week, putting pieces together, contacting my lawyer, my bookkeeper, things like that. And so like for that, like I'll get to a spot where I'm supposed to be really doing that to get it ahead, and I'll go do other things. But really, like all that's me, like I'm just procrastinating. Like that task still has to get done. I still am going to do that. So what am I going to do is kick the can down the road until there's more pressure on me. And then it creates this anxiety that it's not done, because it's, now you've extended it out. So it's like, what's the point? Like, am I going to do my taxes? Yes. So why not just follow the process of like getting them done, in my format that I know I need to get them done? Why kick the can down the road and create that anxiety? I don't know. That's just the way we're wired. So like, but the point is on this topic is, a lot of times we're going to our phone or our social media, we're checking our emails because we're almost trying to see like, hey, is there something else that we could be doing that like we can maybe justify that's more important than what we said was important? That's what I think. So then I went from rules for my iPhone, then it went into social media, then it went into emails. I said, set rules on who title and lender should email. This is for Realty. I know I have some people who aren't realtors who listen to the show. Some of my clients listen to the show, but this is for like realtors. It's set rules on the title companies and lenders. Anybody in your life that isn't a client, you should have some structure on how they email you. So like if you have a transaction coordinator or somebody in your office who handles stuff, I would start letting them know like, hey, like don't BCC me on stuff. Like I did this a long time ago. Like I'll email agents to be like, hey, just want to let you know, I actually won't, this isn't going to be for me anymore. So here's the email that I'd like you to email. You can actually leave me off all future emails. You don't even have to BCC me. I talk to my office every morning at 9:30. We do a Zoom. They go over everything super important to me on the transaction, and I'll know about anything that I need to know about there. And then I also let them know that I personally wouldn't know majority of the questions you're going to ask me or text me or email me. I wouldn't know the answers to it. So like, this is the person that I have that's totally in charge, totally empowered, and like that's who does that job. So set rules up with people in your life. But hey, that could be if you're not a realtor, and you own a business and you're listening to this podcast, or I guess it could be anyone. I mean, it could be a stay-at-home mom, like anything, like set up rules. For example, like maybe have an email address where you give like Kohl's and Fry's or the grocery stores or those kind of people, those email addresses that they need for you to get some type of discount. Maybe you give them a total, like go set up a Gmail, give them a total separate email. You set up an email that's what you classify as more important, that people can email you, like maybe your kid's school district that emails you or the teacher. It can have something where it's like, hey, these are my serious emails that I need to check. And then here's where kind of like my junk goes, that I give people this email, so that you're setting up that's the boundaries I'm talking about. Just like little systems that you can say like, hey, I don't need to have 900 emails a day from all these places with coupons trying to get me to buy something. Then I wrote, have rules on when you check your email. I'm speaking to myself here, because it's interesting how I don't check my emails a lot in the day, but for some reason, I do check them early in the morning, which sounds crazy. For someone who rarely checks their emails, checking them early in the morning is probably the worst time. So I'm just processing my thoughts on what I want to do differently, but I don't want to check my emails anymore until after I get, my whole entire routine done a day. First, my morning routine, then get into my office, start doing a few things, then check my emails. Now, I have some people who help me in my life in my office, so maybe that's easier for me to do than others, but I think the point is very rarely are you going to get an email that is like super, super, super concerning, where like you getting to it in the next 30 minutes is a deal breaker or not. So I just wrote down that I want to have more rules around when I check my email. I definitely do not want to check them anymore in the morning. Just because, like I said, it's the same as checking social media. Like, I'm sure you guys are a lot like me, and there's many days where you wake up and you pick up your phone. Like, it's almost the first thing we do is pick up our phone and we look at our text messages, any missed phone calls. We go on email, and then we go on Instagram, then we go on maybe Facebook. Like, you've got like an order of like, you just woke up in the morning and you just went to like 4 and 5 places to like check things and just give your brain just all of this stuff. I mean, you got emails on your transactions of what needs to be done, and then you got social media posts and people asking you questions, or you're just scrolling through, and then all of a sudden you see the news stories of the day while you're on social media, and it's super overwhelming, I think, for your brain in the morning to just take in that much information. That's why I think it's something that once you wake up, get yourself put together, go to work, get some very productive things done, then do that stuff. Because I really do. I think it takes your, like, you guys have heard me say this before, but like your brain is just like a battery on your phone. Like, you wake up and you should be at like 100%. And the second you check your email, your social media, your text messages, your voicemails, when you wake up and do that, like your brain just went from like 100 to like 87% right there, because you just consumed it with so much stuff. So just like get up and like let that first 10-15% of your battery power on your life go towards things, like let other things get more energy from you, while other things get more of your 100% energy. So that's the boundaries I wanted to discuss. I also think, just freestyling right now, this isn't on my notes, but just having boundaries on, whether you go to, church on certain days, whether you have date nights planned with your wife, football games with the kids, t-ball games. Like, I don't have kids, so I can't relate, but I have noticed that like I'll go to, like you do see certain things, or I've talked to agents that will tell me like, hey, that's really hard. Like, I go to my kid's t-ball game and I got to put this deal together, and I get it. And there's no judgment. All I'm saying is just sit down for an hour or two and write down your life. Look at your calendar, your family life, your business life, and just say like, hey, these are some rules I want to start playing by. Because what's happening is we don't have any rules. Like, most of us who are listening to this podcast they're at ages where we lived a life where we didn't have this stuff. Like, I lived a life, and a good one, where I didn't have emails, I didn't have a phone, I didn't have social media. Like, I didn't have a phone, I think, until I was like 17 years old. And so like I lived a good and I'm 39 now. I lived a good portion of my life without it. And then when I did get one at 17, from 17 to probably 25, 26, they weren't that good, right? Like, they were just able to make phone calls. They didn't have a lot of social on them or a lot of entertainment on them. So it's like, even the first 17 didn't have one. Then the next 7 years, 8 years, they weren't of quality more than just having a phone in your pocket. And then it wasn't until like probably the last 8 years, 9 years, where they've been like highly effective forms of entertainment, and a lot of entertainment in one spot outside of your phone. But see, that what I just said, like, think that through. Like, we almost are carrying around now, like in our pocket, a movie theater and our friends and our conversations. Like in that little device, we have so many things we used to do. It used to be like, oh, let's go with our friends to a movie on Friday. And oh, like, let's go. I'm going to go skateboard with my 3 friends and we're going to go hang out for 3 hours. Like that's, it used to be so many different things we would do and we got experiences from them. And now like in that phone, we've got movies and our friends' conversations and we got YouTube and we've got learning stuff and Instagram. And it's just, I'm just saying that most of us lived a life where we didn't have this our whole life. And now it's coming at us. And I think it's going to come at us so much faster. Like listening to this podcast the other day, they were saying that we're going to start getting information thrown at us so quickly that we almost don't know how to process it. And the other thing that was interesting about this podcast was how they were saying, with how fast information is going to come out, like will we even know what's true and not true anymore? And that's even a weirder conversation that I won't go into. But so I hope that this podcast just made you sit for just a little bit and think, hey, let me now tomorrow just block out an hour of time. And I want to just write down on a piece of paper or notes on my phone what my boundaries are going to be like. How do I want my life to be designed? How do I want to be structured? How do I want to check emails? How do I want to check my social media? When do I want to return my phone calls? Things like that. So I hope this was helpful today. Just setting boundaries, kind of getting control of your life. And I think it's something that we're really going to want to focus on going in the future so we can have quality lives, have very good relationships, and be very proactive and not letting the algorithms of the world consume us in our time. I hope you guys all have a good day.